My name's Nicole Blank. I live in Burlington, Vermont. I go to the UVM Succeed program, which is a program that's in collaboration with the University of Vermont and Howard Center Developmental Services, and I'm also a part-time UVM student, so I take special Succeed classes which are taught by Howard Center staff, and last spring semester I took public speaking class, and I'm going to take a regular UVM computer class and an English class in the fall, and a graduate level class in the next spring called Culture of Disability. I'm part of the Autism NOW team, and doing the focus forums. Conducting the focus forums. The questions around employment, living situations, level of support. Let's just see, a lot of the parents seem to be supportive of self-advocacy and that they're supportive of us. Because at the last summit, a lot of people were supportive of self-advocacy, and a lot of them saying, we want self-advocacy around. They were big on inclusion. Self-advocacy needs to be a part of the transition process, and that, schools here need to collaborate with self-advocacy organizations, and it needs to start young. The earlier, the better. Especially around transition age and before. Started, especially when they're middle school. Start it when they're a kid and when they're in middle school. High school. Well, I learned about it through, 2007, getting into the developmental services system. I found out through a home provider, Unfortunately here, the high school I went to, I graduated in Randolph Union High School, and, they weren't the greatest with transitions, so it's like I had no clue. So all of a sudden I moved to a different town, and all of a sudden, boom. Which, prior to getting into development services, I went to Job Corps. Yeah, which is where I got diagnosed with autism, which wasn't a very positive experience. It was a socially demanding environment. Because, my challenge, all through high school is that, I could never pass. I've always wanted to go to college, I could never. When I got out of high school, I tried to pass the acupuncture test, but, couldn't, and I took it 3 times, I could never pass it. So it's like, okay, can't pass that, okay, what's next? We'll try Job Corps, okay, that didn't work. And then let's see, then all of a sudden this program starts up in 2008 called Succeed. Then applied to it in 2010, get accepted. One goal I have is to become an AAPD intern next summer, and I'd like to be a Kennedy Fellow. It's like the professionals have done it all these years, parents, professionals. It's time to actually have a person with a disability being a professional doing it. Yeah, it's time for a change. It's time to move the cheese. Have you heard that book, Who Moved My Cheese? Well, it's time for a lot of cheese to move in this country. Just like it's time for everybody to embrace Obamacare, embrace long-term care reform. We need to end the institutional bias. We need to raise the Social Security tax so we can preserve Social Security. And if we're going to make budget cuts in this country, let's cut all the war funding, cut military defense, and let's fully fund the promise of the Olmstead. We can create jobs by building affordable housing, fully funding special ed, fully funding all the promises. Let's invest in mass transit. That'll help with all these gas prices being so high. If you look at every state's Olmstead plan, there's an economic stimulus in that. Investing in public services is the way to create jobs. A job is a job, whether it's private sector or public sector. Promises are made to be kept, not broken. And by defaulting on the promise of the Olmstead Plan and the ADA, it's handing us a bad check. I'm a big political junkie. Like this past year, the Governor Peter Shulman, he wanted to cut developmental services by 5%. So all the provider agencies came up with the idea, with support from all the advocacy organizations, to do a massive protest with 500 plus people. So we all went down to the State House. I spoke at it along with our former Deputy Commissioner Teresa Wood, and we all had this massive protest, and the cut was reduced from 5% to 2.5%. This is after 3 years after 3 rounds of cuts. So we're on this year, fiscal year, is our 4th round. And in Vermont, they say we have a Cadillac system. We need to go from number 1 to number 8. And when it comes to autism, we need services. We don't need to be cured. We don't need treatment. We don't need to be erased. Inclusion is a birthright. Free our people now. No more back in the day.